perfect lunch right here. It's so good. Hey everyone, it's Nia. I'm back with another recipe drop from the Food52 test kitchen, where me and Caesar bring you new recipes every week. And today I am making a broiled salmon with cold lentil salad. It's an example of how I eat most days. It has grapefruit, it has avocado, it has red onion, and it's dressed and marinated with a whole grain mustard vinaigrette dressing with dill. It's so delicious. Let's get into it. So the first step is to preheat the oven. So I have it preheated to the broiler with a rack in the top position because we want the salmon to get nice and charred on the top. So I have 1/3 cup of beluga lentils. I really like beluga lentils. I feel like they hold up a little better. They don't get as mushy as red lentils. I'm gonna cover the lentils with about 1 inch of water. And I'm gonna cook these kind of like how you would cook pasta. You don't have to be too precious about the amount of water, which I really like. I'm also gonna add just a little bit of baking soda, so 1/8 teaspoon to be exact. Lentils cook a little bit faster and get a little softer in an alkaline environment, and that's exactly what the baking soda does. It raises the pH and makes it more basic, I guess. I'm also gonna add about 1 teaspoon of salt. It might seem like a lot of salt, but because we're gonna drain all the water anyway, not all the salt is gonna get into the lentils. So again, the idea is kind of to cook the lentils like pasta. So think about how like when you cook pasta, you salt the pasta water. I'm gonna bring this to a boil over medium-high heat and let them cook for about 10 minutes. Onto the dressing slash marinade. I'm starting with 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. I love this because it can be a dressing, it can be a sauce, it can be a marinade. Then I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of whole grain mustard. You could use stone ground if you want. I just prefer whole grain. I just think it's really good. I like the little like pops of mustard that you get. I'm gonna add about 1 tablespoon of honey. I kind of hate measuring honey. It's kind of a pain to get out of the measuring spoon, so I'm just gonna eyeball this. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so since I forgot to do the garlic before, I am gonna chop about 1/2 teaspoon of garlic. So actually we probably only need 1 of these. 1 teaspoon is about the same as like 1 large clove of garlic. So I'm just gonna chop this into a paste. Mash it down a little. Do you have a garlic press, or what do you do? You grate garlic, or do you chop garlic, or do you use a garlic press?
I do exactly what you're doing now, but I think I'm gonna swap to like microplaning it.
Yeah, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
We also have a really, really good garlic press on the site. I can't remember what it's called, but it's really good. Okay, 1/2 teaspoon of chopped garlic. Now I'm gonna add about 1 teaspoon of chopped dill too. Fresh dill here is crucial. Definitely don't use dried dill. I feel like it is one of those things that really makes the recipe, really makes the dressing. So if you don't have dill and you want to make this recipe, I highly recommend just going out to buy it. It's worth it. Fresh herbs is also one of those things that I don't really measure because a little bit extra is only going to add to the flavor. So about 1 teaspoon. All right, I'm going to squeeze a bit of lemon juice. I really like this little thing. I feel like I use it a lot because it has tablespoon and ounce measurements. So it's really easy for things like this, like when you're measuring lemon juice or just a small amount of something like the olive oil too. 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, or 1/2 of a lemon. And then I'm gonna reserve the second half to cut some wedges for serving. I'm just gonna season with a little bit of freshly ground black pepper and a generous pinch of salt. I'm also gonna season to taste. So the idea here with this dressing is you wanna whisk it until it's really nice and emulsified and kind of becomes thick, so it spreads on the salmon really nicely and like evenly. So good. And add a little bit more salt. This is probably one of my favorite meal combinations is dill, mustard, honey, salmon. I think it's so good. And honestly, I think whenever I make salmon, 9 out of 10 times, I do something like this. All right, I'm gonna set that aside. Okay, moving on to the salmon. I have 1.5 pounds of salmon fillets here, skin on, because I really like the skin. If you don't like it, you can cut it off. This is 1.5 pounds of salmon. You could use 2 pounds if you want. You could use 1 pound. It really depends on how many people you are serving. I'm gonna move this up here. I'm gonna pat this dry just to get rid of the extra moisture on top, which is gonna help with the broiling process and browning. Okay, we're pausing on the salmon for a sec. The lentils are done. I'm gonna drain them. Because this is a cold lentil salad, I'm gonna rinse them with cold water. This is gonna stop the cooking process, and this is also gonna get rid of all the extra lentil starch too, which, in my opinion, makes them a lot easier to digest. I'm gonna transfer them back into the pot, and I'm gonna season them with salt and pepper. It's important, especially when you're making a dish like this with like different components of a salad, that each ingredient or component should be able to hold or stand by itself. So you should want to eat these lentils even without the salad or the rest of the ingredients. See, I would eat that just as they are. Going back to the salmon, I'm gonna sprinkle the tops with a nice pinch of salt. And this is kosher salt that I'm using. This is gonna help draw out some moisture, which is then kind of gonna act as like a little brine, and the salt is gonna go into the salmon and season the salmon from the inside out. Although it's not sitting for that long. A little bit of pepper. And now I'm gonna top the salmon with a little bit of dressing or sauce. And I'm gonna save the rest to drizzle over the salad later. Make sure that you're not touching the utensil to the salmon and then going back into the dressing, because we don't want to cross-contaminate. Use a spoon or a brush like this to just spread it out over the salmon. When I develop savory recipes, not so much baking recipes, because I just love to bake regardless, I like to think about what I eat at home on the weekends. It's kind of my inspiration a lot of the time. A lot of my savory recipes are also on the easier side. Like this only takes maybe half an hour to make, and as you are seeing, doesn't require that much effort. All right, so add any more dressing if you feel like it needs it. I think this looks pretty good. So I'm gonna broil the salmon on the top rack for 7 minutes until it reaches 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I know that seems a little bit low, but we're gonna take it out, and the heat from the salmon is gonna carry it to the finish line, and it's gonna be perfectly cooked. 7 minutes. So in the meantime, I'm gonna cut the grapefruit and the avocado and the onion. I just do it really basically. Cut the top off, cut the bottom, and then I'm gonna just go around the sides, and actually, I'm gonna peel it. Peel it, cut it, whatever you want. Sometimes if you cut it, you can remove more of this white pith, but sometimes I feel like I'm cutting off too much of the grapefruit, so I kinda like to peel it when I can. Then you can always go in and get rid of more of the white stuff if it bothers you. So I'm gonna cut this into like 1/2-inch slices. I like to use a chef's knife. Make sure it's sharp though. This one could for sure use some sharpening. If I'm making a recipe, I like to stick to one knife if possible. It's not always the case, but since we're doing a lot of chopping and stuff, I'm just sticking with this chef's knife. All right, and then I'm gonna cut it into smaller pieces. So about that size. Because it's really, you can keep them bigger, but I like to have pieces of grapefruit with every bite. And, you know, I usually use a knife when I'm eating, but if you don't use a knife when you're eating, then you can still kind of eat this without having to cut the grapefruit. So I'm cutting each half into about 4 pieces. What's a really fancy technique called again, where you go between, I'm blanking. Caesar, what's it called again? You go in between, why am I blanking on the name? Supreme, yes. When I first developed this recipe, I did a supreme cut, which is when you go between the pith layers and just cut off the, I don't know, you get like really clean wedges, but I just find it tedious. So we're doing this. I also feel like it's just kind of a waste of grapefruit, you know? Also for assembly, I'm gonna slice some red onion. I don't use that much for this recipe. If you love onion, you know, you do you, add more if you want. I'm just gonna thinly slice about 1/8 of the whole onion, so half of this. Then I have an avocado here. It's actually already cut. Someone started using the other day, but I'm only gonna use half. There goes our salmon timer. Let's check it out. It's so hot. All right, so it's only at 102, so a few more minutes. So the time of the salmon will kind of depend on how hot your oven is. All ovens vary, so somewhere between 7 and 10 minutes is the sweet spot. Now I'm gonna slice it lengthwise into thin slices, really like 1/4-inch slices. Remove it out of the peel just to make it easier for garnishing later. Oh my God, it's so hot. At 122, it's perfect. 123. It's nice. That's the perfect char. Could be like a little browner on top, but I really don't want to overcook the salmon, so looks really good. That is the hard thing about cooking salmon that are different thicknesses, is that you're gonna get some pieces that are a little bit more cooked, some pieces that are a little less cooked. The thinner ends are gonna be much more cooked than the thick middles. Now all that's left to do is cut the lemon into wedges. And then here we have some more dill that I saved as well to top the salad with. I have this 5-ounce container of baby arugula. I'm only gonna use about half, but if you're feeding a crowd, use the whole thing. This recipe is really easy to double, as you can probably tell. Just gonna spread it out. I think this is a really good spring or summer recipe because it's perfect for eating outside and assembling quickly, just as like family style, which I really like. Anything that can be made family style is, I think, really nice. Okay, gonna top with the cold beluga lentils. I envision eating this on even like a Thursday, midweek, outside at the picnic table if you have one, or just inside on like a sunny evening, or sunny afternoon, I guess. The fact that it's a cold lentil salad also makes it really nice for lunch, not just a dinner. Okay, I'm gonna add the grapefruit. I'm gonna do about half of the toppings, and then I'm gonna toss it and add the rest. I think another thing that would be really good to add on the salad would be shaved fennel in with the avocado. Make sure to separate the slices so that you get an even distribution. Okay, I'm gonna drizzle about half of the remaining dressing on top. I'm gonna gently give it a toss. You could also bring this on the go. You could prep all your toppings ahead of time, cook the lentils, bring the container of arugula, and make the salmon ahead, let it cool, and then just assemble it at your picnic or beach or wherever it is you're eating it. So just tossing until the lentils are kind of evenly distributed amongst the arugula. All right, going in with the rest of the grapefruit. If you are not a lentil fan, you could also swap the lentils out for barley, quinoa, any type of grain I think would be really nice. Here, tuck the avocado pieces in a little, because they're so big. And the last of the red onion. Okay, now I'm just gonna top it with the salmon. So obviously, depending on the size of your serving platter, I only added 3 of the salmon fillets here because it's clearly all I have room for. So make sure you choose one that's big enough. Okay, putting the little lemon wedges on the side. I'm gonna drizzle with the last of the dressing. going on to the salmon too. I'm so excited that I'm making this right now because it is 12:45, so perfect for lunch. I purposefully did not pack lunch today because I knew I was gonna make this, and those are the best days. So I'm gonna garnish with a bit more fresh dill. And then you can go in and I'm gonna top it with a little bit more freshly ground black pepper and just a small sprinkle of salt. There we have it. Super easy, quick salmon and cold beluga lentil salad. That's perfect for lunch, dinner, summer eating, really whenever. Looks really good. I'm starving, so I'm very excited to dig in. Salmon. I'm gonna go this one. See, it is perfectly cooked. 120, 125, sweet spot. I just love the arugula and the combination with the citrusy grapefruit and the creamy avocado. It's so good. I love this dressing. Always hits and it's always so good on salmon. The salmon is really tender and cooked perfectly, and it just goes really nice with the lightness of an arugula salad. And the lentils are really nice because they don't weigh the salad down too much, which I really like. If you need a quick lunch or dinner summer recipe, especially if you like salmon, you can find the recipe linked down below in the description. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.